Hi everyone, this is Lowell, and we're continuing our discussion about the Nashville number system, or what people call the number system. And the last video I was talking about how to use the circle of fifths um, inside of a key. And so the circle of fifths actually relates to all the 12 keys that are available, but in each one of those keys you have the availability um, of doing chord progressions in fifths. And so we talked about, just kind of rehash, but we talked about what is a fifth. When I say that a fifth, what do I mean by that? And if you take a diatonic scale, a major scale, and the first note is 1 and the second note is 5 rather. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you have a fifth, and that's a very, very important interval based upon the overtone series. So, and let me just kind of explain what, the circle of fifths basically in terms of all of the 12 keys, just to rehash. But, let's say here's a chord, and then we go up, so that's C, and then we're going to go up a fifth from that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then here's a G, that's G major, and then up a fifth from that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is D major, and then up a fifth from that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is A major, and then I'm going to drop back down, A major, go up a fifth from that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is E major. All right, and so basically as you're rolling down the hill, if you will, from fifth to fifth to fifth to fifth, going around all the different major keys that are available, then it would sound something like this. All right, and so you're just wrapping around all of the keys, going from major to major to major. All right, so you can do sort of like that inside of one key. So if we're doing that inside of the key of C, then here is what is the fifth? Using, again, everything goes back to the major scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, and we're building our triads on those notes, using those notes. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. But so 5 of C, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is G, and that is major. We can do a G major there inside of the key of C, using the scale of C. But then 5 of G is D, except it would be D major, except because we're using only the notes of the key of C, it turns out that it's D minor. Okay, so what's 5 of D? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would be A major, except we're using the notes in the key of C major, so it actually means that this is A minor. So, okay, and so what is 5 of A minor? What is 5 of A? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's E. Would be E major, but it's E minor because we're using, again, the notes in a C major scale. Okay, what's 5 of E? It would be B. Okay, and so in the key of C, it would be a B diminished. So if we go around the circle of fifths in the key of C, then it would be basically E minor, A minor, D minor, G major, and then C major. And so, as I talked about in that previous video, and I'm now basically giving you an audio example of what that sounds like, the very famous chord progression of 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. And so that's you're using the same idea of going around the circle of fifths of all the different keys, except you're doing it inside of the key now. All right, and so the what that sounds like, kind of in a less triadic way, you know, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, and I'm not a great keyboard player, but just right. It's a very common chord progression. And then the other interesting thing in jazz, particularly, is that you have this. The last 3 chords of that progression is called a 2-5-1 progression, and it's actually called a turnaround in jazz. So 2, 5, 1, or right? You hear that all the time. So here's, you know, maybe going to rock some of your worlds. Okay, those of you who want to do the Nashville number system, you know, out of simplicity. You know, you're working with a band and you're improvising all together, and you're just, you know, somebody, you have a band director, you know, a leader who's calling out, okay, go to the 1 chord, go to the 4 chord, go to the 3 chord, okay, and that's great. But you know, how about if we wanted to introduce some chromaticism to that? And so, you know, what I've talked about before is there's basically 2 different kinds of scales that I'm teaching you. One is the diatonic scale, which is what the number system is built on, but then there's also the chromatic scale. And so the chromatic scale, meaning chromo or color, is all of this, all these other half steps inside of the major scale. And so how do you introduce that when you're only playing with essentially 6 chords in a key? And so this is very fascinating, and hopefully you can track with this. But, you know, let's say we're going along just fine in the key of C, doing, you know, a 1-4-5 chord progression, 1, 4, 5, 1. But let's just say for a minute that we want to park on 4, and we're spending so much time on the 4 chord that we actually want to kind of call it a key of its own. And so let's say now we're going to introduce a 2-5-1 progression of 4. Okay, so we're pretending that now we're in the, you know, the key of F, and so then we introduce a 2-5-1 chord, 2, 5, 1 of 4. And so what we did is did you see what we did? We introduced that B flat, which is not in the key of C, but it is momentarily. So let's say that I'm, you know, going along in the key of C, and then going along, and then all of a sudden I'm in an F, and I want to do 2-5-1 of F, but I'm really in the key of C. Okay, so you can momentarily throw in a 2-5-1 of any of the chords of C. So let's say that I'm doing the same idea with the, you know, with 2. You know, so here I am with, you know, I'm playing in this key of C, but then I go to 2, and I'm hanging out in 2 for a while. And so I'm going to say, okay, how do I do 2-5-1 of D? So 2-5-1 is going to be here, major 5, back to the minor D. And so did you see what I just did? I just introduced a C sharp, which is not in the key of C. And so I'm, you know, just put that in context, you know, 1, 4, 5, 1, and I'm in 2, and now I'm going to do 2-5-1 of D minor. See what I'm saying? And so you can add chord progressions that are basically subsets of the key that you're in. You could actually augment that to do the 3-6-2-5-1. Let's just do that as an example. So let's say that we want to do 3-6-2-5-1 of D. Okay, so we'll do 3, which is going to be a minor. So what I'm showing you is how to introduce chromaticism inside of your basic major scale of the key. And that's a whole nother layer, and I don't personally think that it works too well inside of the number system. Mostly the number system is just really wanting to stay diatonic. But if you have a really, skilled keyboard player or guitar player that understands how to throw in some of those other chord progressions inside of your basic chord progression, then that can be helpful. What you have to be careful of is people start improvisation on top of each other, and if everybody is adding these chromatic things inside of a simple song, you can end up stepping on each other. And this is where I'm basically encouraging musicians out there to move beyond, the Nashville number system, move beyond, the simplicity of a number system type of scenario to actual arranging, so that you can get a clean arrangement with all sorts of different interesting harmonies. And the value, I guess here's my last little sales pitch to those of you who are using the number system. The value of actually learning how to read music and to use music notation in terms of your arranging capability and reading capability as a musician. It's fantastic, that you can play by ear. I play by ear. I love, improvise. My instrument is violin, and I play all sorts of styles and can go all over, the place with my improvisation. But I also am a composer, a classical composer, and so I really want to encourage, and I've written arranging for all sorts of different styles, jazz and rock and so forth. But I find value in both. And I hope that you, as a musician, can find value in reading and writing music in using traditional notation as well as playing by ear. And I think that's the best of both worlds. That's pretty much what I wanted to share with the Nashville number system, and I hope you enjoyed the series.